No, perfect. So good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us. Obviously, this morning we are here for managing cash and the finances of your business. Just to quickly introduce myself, my name is Molly and I'm the event coordinator here at Kent and Invicta Chamber of Commerce. We're joined this morning by Jim Gorrie. Jim's from UK Business Mentoring and he's worked quite closely with the Chamber for a while now. We know Jim really well. Really lucky to have him as a speaker today. So you're in for a really good session. We've done a couple of webinars before. They've been absolutely brilliant. So do keep your pen and paper to hand if you do have them. Because there will be a little bit of note taking, but we will also send the slides out afterwards for you. So they will be available and we are recording too. Just a couple of housekeeping rules, if I can. Try and keep your cameras on if possible. It's really nice that when we're presenting, if we can still see your faces, just to know that you're still paying attention and that you're nodding along and that you understand. Obviously, any questions, please do feel free to use the chat function. And keep your microphones on mute for me, obviously, unless we say to unmute or anything like that. And again, the session will be recorded. And I will now hand over to our speaker for today, and that is over to Jim.
Hi, good morning, everyone. And thank you very much for taking the time today to come to this session around finance. I'm going to introduce the presentation in a second. The way I've tried to pitch this is, over the last few years, any business that I've worked with have asked various questions around finance, and it tends to be a topic that for every business is really important, but does tend to get left for various reasons. Therefore, I'm shaping this purely around finance, the basics. I say the basics, but if you're doing this, then fantastic, you're in a great place. And if you're not, hopefully it's going to prompt your mind to think, how am I going to do this? How am I going to take this forward? So let me share my screen with you. And there will be opportunities as we go along to ask and answer questions. So let's start with... Excellent. So my name is Jim Gorrie. I'm part of UK Business Mentoring. And I want to start by thanking the Chamber of Commerce, and particularly Molly for kind of putting this on, for inviting us along to talk to you. So just want to start with who we are. So as a company, we're rated #1 in the UK based on client feedback, mentoring business owners since 2009. We provide a range of services, which include full business reviews to find out what's working well in your business and what you could actually do to improve your profitability, how things work. We also provide business and leadership coaching, training and support. And the key areas we tend to focus on is business growth, business finances, people, marketing strategy and exit planning. And I'm pleased to say that one of my colleagues, Mark Roblett, who looks after the Kent N25 corridor, is on this as well to provide support. So that's kind of enough about me. But let's get down to the crux of it. And I like coming at this from the point of view of when businesses are well managed. And when they're well managed and the business owner has time to work on the business, those businesses create more jobs, they pay higher wages, they have lower costs, including recruitment. They have better staff and owner engagement and less turnover. They sell better and cheaper products and they have higher profitability, which is good for everyone. But unfortunately, this isn't always the case. And these are some stats that talk about the number of new businesses that open every year. So a staggering 666,000 new companies are formed every year, that's 70 an hour. Of that number, 20% will go under in the first year, 60% will close their doors by the third year, and 70% by the fifth year. So why is this? So there's a number of reasons. No business plan, or originally had a business plan, but not used it as a working document. Cash flow issues. The business owner doesn't understand or use data, for example, financial KPIs. There's a lack of business skills, including the people skills. And there's a really good book called The E-Myth, which explains that for business owners, they'll basically start off being a technician. So are excellent at what they do. What helps a business be successful is learning those business skills that go alongside being the technician of whatever you do. And lastly, there's a lack of understanding of business concepts. Now that's natural because business owners will be expert at what they do. And there's a lot of support out there that can help with these things that tend to derail a business. Now, of those, the most common reasons for businesses failing are poor management, the business not being profitable, and for 90% of businesses that fail, the main reason given by the business owner is they run out of cash. And there's a saying from 1849, which was true then and is as true now, and it emphasizes the importance of cash within the business. Annual income £20, annual expenditure £19, 19 shillings and sixpence, result happiness. Annual income £20, annual expenditure £20 and sixpence, result misery. And this is from David Copperfield. So getting to the finances itself, why is it so important? Well, basically, your cash is the lifeblood of your business. Without that, businesses do not survive. And if it's seen as a really important area, what percentage of businesses forecast and review their finances on a regular basis? And scarily, it's around about 15%. So, what I want to do is talk to you about a couple of simple and key things that will help you to start thinking about your financials, how to manage them, how to reflect on them, and then what action to take to improve them. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is your forecast profit and loss. So within the financial numbers that most businesses keep, there would be two forecasts that you would look at. The first one is the profit and loss, which allows you to forecast when and whether your business will be profitable. It also then allows you, once you've got the forecast in place, to reflect back as numbers come each month to see how we're doing. So a couple of key steps. So first of all, ask yourself, do we have one of these? And if not, prepare one. Now, a lot of businesses do say as we go, that business owners I interact with, say, well, this is fine, profit and loss, cash flow, my accountant looks after these. And your accountant can support you with this. But as a business owner, it's your business, it's your numbers, it's your cash. And what you will tend to find is the more successful business owners are aware of their numbers. So even if you get an accountant or someone to do it for you, make sure that you're involved and that you understand and at least review the numbers every month to make sure you know what they're telling you. Now, to prepare one, the easiest way to think about it is, first of all, fill in what you know, and that's normally your fixed costs, because they will happen every month, whether you open the doors or not. Then think about what you need to assume. This will normally be your sales and your indirect costs. Once you've got it completed, review it on a monthly basis and review your actuals against the forecast. And from what you're seeing, what did you learn and what do you need to adjust? Now, I'll just mention as well that these slides, I think Molly mentioned it, will be made available afterwards. So if you're making notes, great. And if I'm going too quick as well, you can put it in the chat and kind of tell me to slow down, okay? But with this bit around what did I learn and what do I need to adjust? First of all, there is assistance within certain programs, such as Xero, QuickBooks and Sage. But I wanted to give you an example of the kind of things that you might need to consider. So on the screen, we've got a forecast of a profit and loss. And at the moment, it's just a range of numbers. But the kind of questions that you might want to ask yourselves are, first of all, your sales. Are they as we expected? And if not, it might prompt the question, do we send out all our invoices? Our gross profit margin. Is it what we expect? Is it higher than what we expect? Wow, how do we do that? And if it's lower, what's that telling us? Is there something we might need to adjust? Your fixed costs. Are there any surprises? And lastly, your net profit or loss. Is it as you expected? Now, all of this requires you to, any business owner, to give themselves the time away from the business to reflect on these numbers. And we'll come to this later on around the support that's available to help you with that, because I know for every business owner I support, and I think Mark would say the same, time is the one commodity that most business owners don't have enough of. So profit and loss account, forecast, review against your actuals, what's it telling you? Now, against this, business owners do ask, so what does good look like, particularly when we're talking about your net profit? And this really depends on the type of business that you have. So on the screen, you'll see an example of a jewellery company against a grocery store. And they work on very different models and very different margins. So whilst at the bottom, you'll see the net profit margin is vastly different. That's not to say that the grocery store is any less successful within its field than the jewellery company. They just run on very different models. I'm also asked, does your net profit margin improve over time? And the reason for that is that as you, over time, you would get slicker, you get more efficient, you get more effective. And the answer is not necessarily, it depends on the individual business. And the example is, as the business grows, you probably will take on more overheads, such as staff. So if you're wanting to review this, an accountant can help you, your business coach can help you, and I'll talk about the other support that can help you with assessing your financial journey, your financial health. So that's a profit and loss. And then when it comes to the area that, in my experience, a lot of business owners tend to struggle with, and this is cash flow forecasting. And cash flow forecasting is not just a problem for small businesses, it's a problem for every business. And there's a quote I particularly like from Michael Dell of Dell Computers. And it's this: we were always focused on our profit and loss statement, but cash flow was not a regularly discussed topic. It was as if we were driving along, watching only the speedometer, when in fact we were running out of gas. And I've helped a good number of companies that on the surface of it look profitable, but are potentially going to have to close because they don't have enough available gas, enough available cash. So what is cash flow forecasting? It is purely over the next 6, 12, 18, 24 months, what you think your cash position is going to be on a monthly basis. So particularly at the moment with the COVID-19 and all the uncertainty there, for any cash flow that you're doing, would always recommend, first of all, look at your best and worst case scenario. Now, the reason I say the worst case scenario is I always like to think about, work with businesses and say, what if? It may be great, it may not. And if it's not, what can we do about it? That then allows the business owner to work it through in their head, have no nasty surprises. And I hate to say be able to sleep at night, but they've got a plan in place. So cash flow forecast, best and worst case scenarios. And this gives you a heads up and time to act. It also gives you time to explore options, and I'm going to show you that on the next slide. I think also at this time, particularly with the COVID going on, it gives you time to negotiate with your suppliers rather than just take. And I think certainly at the moment when cash is particularly tight, one of the issues that businesses are having is around their customers paying up on time. What I would say is that there's a different session we do around how you can have better relationships with your debtors and creditors. And one of the things that I would recommend is from the cash flow forecast, if you know there's going to be an issue, or to be fair, if you come across an issue, rather than just not paying, and it's good to see the government doing something around that with the prompt payment code that's coming out, but pick up the phone and speak to your suppliers, because they will be in a similar situation to you, and it's better to try and work together for this. So So please, time to negotiate rather than to take, I think, is a really important point, and something key to my heart as an ethical business, I'm sure is key to yourselves. And I think the last point, a cash flow forecast will be needed when applying for finance. Every bank, if you look for an overdraft, a loan, even if it's invoice discounting, they will require a cash flow forecast from you. Again, you can get your accountant to help you with this. You can get your business support coach to help you with this. As a business owner, though, you need to be looking and seeing what the numbers are telling you. And if you haven't got a cash flow and you think, right, okay, where do I start? Please contact me after this. I have a template that I can make available to you. It will work out the numbers for you. It will have all the categories. It will make life easy for you. So I said about with the cash flow forecast, what are you going to be looking for? And this is one that I have prepared. So what is it telling me? So the first thing it's telling me is at the end of the year, we're going to have a cash surplus. So that's good. I can look forward to the end of the year. But what it is also showing me is in the mid-year, there's going to be a shortfall. So what are my options? So one of them is approaching my bank or thinking about other borrowing avenues that potentially I can explore. And the good news with this one is, and being an ex-banker, is that by doing your cash flow forecast, you foresee problems and it allows you to approach your bank early. And as being from the banking fraternity in my old life, banks don't like surprises. So if you can demonstrate that you are in command of your numbers, that you understand them, that you can see as a problem, but you're telling them what you're doing about it, banks are much easier to get on board with what you're trying to do. The other options are negotiate with your suppliers or your creditors. Is there something that you can do with them that could potentially delay their payment by a couple of months? There's discount invoicing. Invoicing, hey Siri. So if you're not familiar with this, fundamentally it's you're getting the money immediately for your invoices. A company will take on board getting that money back and then will provide it to you minus a fee down the line. The downfall is that you pay a fee for doing that. The upside is you get cash in the business very quickly. So there's just a few options of what the cash flow forecast can do for you and tell you. I suppose I just want to see at this point if there's any questions, because we spoke about the profit and loss, spoken about the cash flow. I just want to see if there's any questions or comments. I'm going to stop sharing for a second, if I may.
Yeah, I've got a question, Jim. How would you suggest businesses is the best way to forecast at the moment within the current situation we're in? Because of course there isn't the year-on-year figures that they would generally have. So yeah, have you got any tips for that?
It's a really good point, Kelly. I think all you can go on, particularly for businesses at the moment, there's a couple of options with it. I'd say that if you're pivoting, for example, so if you're thinking, well, okay, what I'm doing at the moment isn't going to work for me, I'd almost approach it as a new business. So it's not just the cash flow I'd think about, have I approached my business plan and reassessed that? Okay. And the reason for that is that for every business, there's kind of 4 key areas that you need to think about: business plan, profit and loss, cash flow, and marketing plan. Now, what tends to happen is these documents, when a business starts out, they do them. If they're asked for them, they'll do them, but they tend to be put away and gather dust. Okay. And that's just an observation. These are working documents that at the beginning, when you start a business, tell you why and how you're going to be successful. And by using them to review or update them when there's any change in the environment, it allows you to make sure your plan's up to date, so you don't wander too much away from your plan. So with regard to the cash flow itself, it may well be at the moment you're not looking to pivot, you're looking to keep the same business model that you had, in which case the estimation is, when are we going to start to come out of this? Okay. If you're looking to pivot, I'd return to your business plan, What's that telling you? And under this new business model in the current environment, what should that look like? So it's not a dead easy, off you go and do it, but it's worthwhile using the business support around, such as the Chamber of Commerce, the Growth Hub. There's a COVID-19 helpline, business support such as UK Business Mentoring to help you with that journey. Okay, so it's not quite as straightforward, but I think it depends whether you're going to pivot or where your view is. Okay, one bit I would say with that though is if you're using that cash flow to go to your bank and say, look, we need support for another 6-9 months, have your rationale for why you're doing it. Okay, but then tell the people what you're going to do at the end. Okay, and reviewing that business plan tells them it's still a viable proposition. We're just not going to return to profitability for X number of months. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Jim, by pivot, you mean growth? So, you know, are you going to grow or are you going to retain, or am I getting that wrong?
No, so by pivot, it's talking about from your core business at the moment, is it a time to move into something else? Yeah. So an example was there was a beer company, a particular popular one, that up to the lockdown produced craft lagers, very quickly pivoted into hand sanitizers.
Yeah, got you.
So they used the same facilities they had, but they saw an opportunity in the market to do something else.
Brilliant. So whether or not your company is adaptable, if you can adapt into another,
absolutely.
Okay.
And this is also why I talk about the business plan, the marketing plan, because if you have a physical store, it may well be that you're actually going to start to pivot and change your model onto online, for example. So again, returning to what started out your business, your roadmap to success, we're allowed to think about all the things you need to do to make it successful. Yeah.
Thank you.
If anyone's got any questions, particularly if they don't want to ask on this, at the end, I'll have my contact details. More than happy to pick up offline. So what we'll do is...
So can I ask a question? So, hi, I've looking at my cash flow plans, where you've got, you know, the cost for materials, is that just a percentage? I mean, I've always worked it just as a percentage because it's obviously a best guess. So looking at historical figures, looking at a percentage of material costs.
Yeah, so if you've got history and what's happened before, you'll be able to look at what you forecast, but actually you'll be able to use actuals as well, because you'll know what actually you have been charged. So if it works out as a percentage and that's fairly accurate, then use that. That's absolutely fine.
So with, you know, my cash flow planning at the moment, because that's all over the place, because, you know, it's very different to my historical figures. Yeah, that's why I can't go anything on, you know, previous trading accounts to actually work it out.
If it will help, my number comes up at the end. If you want to have a chat offline, more than happy to.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah,
thank you.
More than happy to help. I'd also, as I say, I've also got my colleague Mark on here as well. And I'll give you his surname at the end as well, so you can look him up. But for this one, yeah, please give me a ring afterwards. More than happy to have a chat with you. So if it's okay, what we'll do is we'll go back to the next part, and then I'll open up for some more questions. So we've got the cash flow forecast. We've said about what we'd be looking for and some of the options it gives us. Now, there's lots of lists, okay? But I think it's important to pull these out because it may well prompt some thoughts or ideas for you. And again, these lists will be made available afterwards. But let's talk through some of the main causes of cash flow problems. So to start with, failing to forecast cash flow. Alongside this, failing to review cash flow. And as I said earlier, as a business owner, you will be doing everything in your business. And I'm quite often faced with business owners saying, that's fine, but when the heck am I going to do this? And I get the challenge that you've got. Failing to review it, I also argue, is potentially looking to fail. And the reason I say this is when times are good and there's cash just coming in, the business is doing well, that's fine, okay? We don't tend to still review cash flow, but the business is going well. It's at times like this, when cash is absolutely at a premium, that we need to review. I'd also argue, to be fair, once you get into the habit of doing this, it will benefit you when we get back to good times, because we will do it at some point. Because in effect, this is about maximizing your profit. So when we talk about cash flow problems, the flip side of it is, how can I make more profit from what I'm doing? Another cause of cash flow problems could be low profits, or worse, losses, which again you won't know about unless you're reviewing your cash flow. The next area deals with invoicing and your credit terms. So examples are allowing customers too much credit, too long to pay. And as I said, the government are starting to move in on this. And there's a thing called a prompt payment code that comes into effect, I think, from July this year. And it's worth looking up, because it's looking to force big businesses to pay up in a more timely manner to all businesses, particularly small ones. Another killer is late customer payments. It could be slow invoicing. And then against this, we could have poor credit terms from our suppliers. There can also be over-reliance on one customer, and goodness forbid, that customer or another key customer going bankrupt. And a few other areas are over-trading, where you're growing the business too fast for actually your cash flow. Could also be excessive inventory held, and that's your cash locked up in stock. It can also be overproduction and seasonal demand. So what can you do? So again, there's a range of options. The first one is use reliable cash flow forecasting. And it may not be an exact science, but have a rationale for it. Challenge yourself when you're looking at your cash flow forecasting. And as long as you've got the right rationale for yourself and you're reviewing it, your cash flow forecasting will improve over time. Give yourself protected time to work on the business, which does include reviewing your finances. Think about how you keep your costs under control. And I'm going to be talking about fixed costs in a second. Think about how you can manage your working capital effectively. And this is fundamentally your stock, and then your debtors and creditors. Think about whether you can obtain longer payment terms from your suppliers. And think about ways that you can give customers less time to pay. And that sounds a little bit as if you're just trying to grab money from them. It's just trying to be fair for the people that you supply your goods to. Alongside this, you might want to offer discounts for prompt payment. And then think about how you're going to manage your inventory terms, levels. When reviewing your cash flow, and particularly your profit and loss, you're going to want to think about how you finance whatever you've got in your business. So think about that you choose the right sources of finance. Consider invoice discounting. As I said earlier, it's about getting the money very quickly into your business, and for that you pay a small fee. Think about leasing rather than buying equipment. And if you are growing at a pace, but you find you're running out of cash, think about slowing down the pace of change until profit margin and cash balances improve. So that's just a number of things depending on that you can think about, depending on your situation. And to be fair, there's a lot more than that, but just to give you some ideas. You can also consider as well when you're thinking about your cash flow. So if you have a new customer, think about checking their credit rating. That will give you comfort that they're going to pay. It may also influence how much credit you give them. And also don't be afraid to ask for payment or deposit up front, especially for new customers. And alongside this, you might want to consider shorter payment terms for new customers. On the flip side, for yourself, if you have a good payment history, why not think about asking for better credit terms from your suppliers? Whilst we're on the topic of suppliers, think about when you set up your agreement or next time you come to review pricing, think about agreeing a range of prices from your supplier depending on size of order. Therefore, it means that as you buy more or as your business grows, that cost of goods starts to come down. Think about your options for reducing how much stock you hold. And if you can, agree, it's better to agree shorter lead terms with your suppliers. And then if you've got a really good supplier, one that you've got a really great relationship, that you've had a fantastic payment history with, they might be prepared to hold stock for you against any forecast that you've got, which is an absolute win for your business. So these are just things to consider to affect your cash flow. And then one that can be quite contentious, but a lot of businesses tend to forget. When was the last time you reviewed your pricing? And it's an area that a lot of businesses either forget about or tend to shy away from. And there's a story that kind of just sticks in my memory of a coffee shop that worked with a few years ago, and was asked to a small coffee shop, friend of the family, that was not being profitable. So I went along on a Saturday morning, and this small coffee shop on a high street, it was doing a roaring trade, people coming in and out, and the owner knew everyone, and it was great. But after the rush had kind of calmed down, I spoke to the business owner and asked, how's it going? Well, it's great, but I'm not making a profit. I said, fine. And the prices were up on a very nice board. I said, when was the last time you reviewed your prices? Because it seems quite cheap, and it's £1.70, I think, for a mug of latte. And they said, about 3 years ago. I said, okay, why was that? I said, well, two reasons. One, when I got the boards done, I got the prices painted on, and to actually get them changed, it will cost me money. Okay, what's the second reason? I'm afraid of losing customers. So did a very quick recce of the high street, and showed them the pricing that you had in Costa, that you had in Starbucks, and they were still nervous about moving their prices. So to give them confidence, got them to move one price, and it was for this latte, and they moved it £1.70 to £2.20, which is still cheaper than the competition. Went back a few weeks later and asked what's been the feedback. And she said, well, I was afraid I was going to lose customers, but actually to a person they said, that's about time, because we always thought your prices were way too cheap. And that started to give them confidence to look at what the competition were doing and make sure that you're in the field with them. Because if you're doing a quality product, then it's right to charge what other people are near enough what they were doing. So that's always stuck with me around the pricing part. We're always very nervous about the pricing, but that allowed that business owner to know their worth. And my top tip, and I keep coming back to this with all the forecasting we're talking about, put time aside at least monthly to track and review your figures. Now, the next area I just want to touch on is thinking about your fixed costs. Now, you've done your profit and loss, and you've done your cash flow, and you'll have these listed. The next thing to a discipline to get into is regularly reviewing them. And there should be at least every 3 to 6 months. And these regular costs are the ones that will be there whether you open your doors or not. And they're normally rent, rates, utilities, staff salaries. And as a business owner, it's worthwhile you taking an hour, a couple of hours to look at each line and think, is this needed? Am I getting value? And worked with companies before where the business owner has had a look at their fixed costs, found things they're overpaying for, insurances, phone contracts, car expenses, a range of things that they've been able to, without destroying what their business does, reduce their costs, which goes straight on the bottom line. Those business owners regularly review their fixed costs now. One other tip that I'd say with this as well is alongside this, know your break-even figure. And this is how many of what you sell do you need to sell to cover your fixed costs? Remember, your fixed costs are there whether you open or not. So you'd need to know how many of whatever you do, you will need to sell to cover that. And the ratio is actually on the screen. So it's talking about what your fixed cost divided by your gross profit. And that will tell you how many sales you need to make. It's a very simple one, but it's it's an easy one to ignore. And it makes sure that you know how well your business is doing month on month. So that's the financial bit, and that's talking about profit and loss, cash flow, reviewing your figures, your fixed costs. But alongside this, every business owner should be measuring stuff, their key performance indicators. And one of the first questions a business owner says, I've got so much to do, why do I need to measure key performance indicators? And this is why. And the analogy I give is that it's like flying a plane and ignoring what the dials are telling you. Okay? Your key performance indicators are the dials for your business. They are telling you a story. So they will tell you about your business health. They will help you measure the progress that you've made. And if potentially you're moving into dangerous territories, it will help you to make adjustments and stay on track. Help you learn what's going well and you do more of it. And if there's a problem, they will help you solve problems and identify opportunities. And over time, it will allow you to analyze patterns within your business that you can use to grow your business and improve your profitability. So what key performance indicators should you measure? And to be fair, it depends on your business. So I've got a few examples on the screen. So for example, a restaurant might want to measure the number of covers that they had, the average sale per customer, staff wages as percentage of sales, and wastage. In a retail shop, it might be footfall, percentage of footfall purchasing, average sales, emails collected. And these funnels work equally well online for online businesses. These are physical businesses, but these work exactly the same for online. Every business should be thinking about what key performance indicators am I going to measure that's going to tell me the health of my business and will determine how I'm getting on towards my goal. So that's fine, but how do you do this? And what most businesses have, particularly when we've worked with them, is a monthly dashboard. So alongside looking at the finances, there'll be a number of areas that a business will look at. So for example, it could be monthly sales versus the previous month or year, or net profit versus the previous month. What we tend to focus on, key performance indicators, are the things that are going to drive your profitability. And if you aren't measuring the key performance indicators and you're thinking, where do I start with this? One, got a free template can provide to you, but secondly, more than happy to have a discussion with you about this. And there's another webinar that we've done for the Chamber of Commerce, which is about understanding your business. And that helps you to understand what are the key inputs that every business will have and should understand and measure that allows you to get the right output, which fundamentally is profit. And what's nice about this dashboard, and I'll just mention this, is one, automatically calculates all the numbers for you. All you need to do is put in that month's figures, which is always useful. And secondly, you can store the end of year numbers, reset, and it will build up year on year. And with the cash numbers and these key performance indicators, one is making sure that you write them down, but also that you review and analyze them, you reflect on what they're telling you, then think about what action you need to take. And it's that giving yourself that time to do it that will get the real benefit, the real wealth out of the information that you're pulling together. So there's a few more bits after this, but I just wanted to open up for any questions and then discuss anything you've heard. And I'd be really interested to see, off the back of what we've spoken about, how you think you might apply this going forward. So I'm going to stop sharing the screen for a second. So first of all, any questions on what we've spoken about? That's good. I've been even really good, but you're all still awake, so that's good. I'll go with that.
It's been great, actually, Jim. Yeah, you've covered everything very well. Really informative and good. I've learned a lot.
I've got no questions, but just to say, I've now got a huge task to do. So you've just made me very thoughtful, Jim. But very, very good presentation so far. So thank you.
That's cool. And the part I'd say, Judith, is it's a good time to grab this stuff, because a lot of businesses are thinking about their future, and they've been doing that for the last 9 months. And it's a good time to do this, because as we move forward and we start to get back to some form of normality, there'll be other stuff that will come along and take up your attention. And the financial part, the key performance indicator part, is absolutely key for any successful business. And again, I stress it, if you'd like to have a chat about any of these parts off the back of this, speak to myself, look up my colleague Mark. We're more than happy to have a chat with you. Okay, more than happy to.
We've actually had a comment come here in the chat. So it's from NRCP. I'm sorry, I'm not too sure on their name. And they said, we have a seasonal business. Do you have any advice? Their microphone's not working.
Hi, NRCP. Not specifically myself for seasonal working. It is following exactly the same principles, because by actually forecasting forward, you'll know when your good seasons are, when your poor seasons are. Probably the one thing I'd think about though is fixed costs, particularly that'd be the area that I'd probably be concentrating on, because if you do particularly well in your peaks and you can squirrel stuff away and you can cover those, then great, your fixed costs will be fine. If you can find a way of moving those fixed costs onto variable costs, therefore, as you produce more, those costs go up, but as that goes down, it goes down. That might help smooth stuff out, smooth out your finances. So that's kind of the only one that really comes to mind on that. But again, if there's a specific problem that you'd like to discuss, please give me a ring afterwards.
Brilliant, thank you.
Jim, sorry, can I ask another question? I'm sorry, my camera's not working. Is there any sort of like benchmarks for different industries for what gross profit, net profit should be?
It's purely looking at what your competition does. So I love Google, okay? I'd like to say I wish it was around when I was a kid. But what I've done for businesses is just research their competition. And you can normally find out what good looks like from there, or what industry standards you have. Right. So I'll tell you what I'll do, Melanie. I've probably got your email, I think probably off the stuff here. I'll see if there's one site I've used before. I'll see if I can find it and I'll send it across to you. Okay,
I've looked on Companies House, looking at other people's trading accounts, that kind of thing. Is that the place where you can find that kind of information?
There is, but there's a lot hidden away. So when you go on Companies House, they only have to give very limited information.
Yeah.
And I can't remember the name of this website that really just analyse all that information for you and say,
okay, brilliant.
You should try looking at this level, for example,
okay.
So you kind of know what good looks like.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay. Any thoughts on applying this? So I've given Judith a load of work to do, which I didn't mean to do, but okay, we'll live with that one at the moment. Right, well, what I'm going to do at this point then...
Sorry, Jim, I've just got one more question. Is it important to know your market share? So again, on the same what we're talking, so that, what your competitors are doing and, what percentage of market share of that business you may well be able to tap into.
It's not one that I particularly focus on from that point of view, but I focus on it probably earlier. And it's more in the marketing plan. And the reason I focus on that is more around what's the opportunity. So what tends to happen is people do the marketing and go off and just say, I'm going to market my products and here it is. Rather than stepping back and thinking, right, okay, what have I got? What's special about what I do? They call it a USP, but why should people buy from me? Who's my target market? Is there enough wiggle? If there's competition out there, because that's part of your SWOT analysis, I'm thinking, okay, fine. Is there opportunity?
Yeah.
Okay. And that's where I'd be thinking about that there's enough market space for everyone within that market. Or if you're looking to take it, then okay, fine. Why are you going to be better than the competition? Okay. I know for the big corporations, they will very much look at market share. So you've got Coke, Pepsi, and that. For a smaller business, it's not an area that I would necessarily focus on. I'd focus on that opportunity bit.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Right, I've got a few more slides to share with you, okay? And there's a few bits will be in the pack, but just to help you kind of think about profitability, because that's the follow-on part from the finances part. So, these will be part of the pack. I'm not going to go through this now, but these are what I call enemies of profitability. These are areas that tend to happen in businesses. So, and they tend to have creep as well. So if you're a new business, you might think, well, okay, marketing plans, staff, processes, that's a long way off. Your business will start to grow. You'll start to take on staff. You'll start to have to then teach processes. And unless you've got plans for each of these areas, it will impact on your profitability. It will promote rework within your business. It will promote waste. And it's not just waste of stock, it's of effort as well. So I give this slide for you to think about what might else be in your business that you can look at, but without increasing your turnover, can increase your profitability. I'll also provide this as well. So this is the top 10 tips for any business to be profitable. And it's to provoke a thought within you to think, do I know this? Is it something I need to know? What can I do about it to make this even better for my business? Now, it's easy for me to sit here and say, manage your time, your finances, your KPIs. How? Because as a business owner, you've got a big old job. You're juggling every ball going. Time is at a premium. How do you do this? And the simple fact is, you don't have to be in this alone. And there is a lot of very, very good support available. So I've mentioned a few here. Invicta Chamber of Commerce provide a lot of support for business owners, much like the Growth Hub. I'm part of the Business Recovery Helpline that's providing support and help to businesses primarily around COVID-19 grants, but also for a thing called the Small Business Network, which allows businesses to get together to talk about their challenges, to share ideas. And actually, it's something absolutely fantastic. We get great feedback from the businesses that are involved. And if you think it might be of use to you, and we run those every 2 weeks, then please give me a shout and I'll get you involved. They're really good. And then, of course, there's business coaches as well, of which UK Business Mentoring is one of the companies that cover Kent, and to be fair, the whole of the UK. And what that support will do for you is take some of the pressure off of your shoulders. We'll be there as your kind of unreasonable friend, they call it. So that support will provide soundboarding, advice, guidance. So you don't need to do it all by yourself. Look out and see what support and help is available to you as a business owner that's going to help you do the right things to be successful. And I'm going to put in here around a business mentor. Why would you use one? And there's been a number of surveys over the years that show that having support, a business mentor or business support, does improve your chances of not only surviving as a business, but being more successful as well. So the question isn't around why would you want support or a business mentor, but I suppose the question is why wouldn't you? And the businesses, the feedback that we get, it takes so much pressure off of business owners. They like having that person available to speak to. Why a UK business mentoring mentor? That's quite a mouthful. As I said before, rated #1 in the UK based on client feedback. Been looking after business owners since 2009. There's no contracts or minimum periods. So in effect, you can work with us for as long or short as you need. And our pledge is, if you're not satisfied with the help we provide you with, you don't pay. Everything we do is driven to provide value to you as a business owner. And off the back of this webinar, more than happy for anyone that's on here to provide a free complimentary mentoring session. So we can just talk about the challenges you're facing, give you a few tips and see if there's anything we can help you with. There's my contact details. So the name's Jim Gorrie, number's 07515, you can read it on there. My colleague is a chap called Mark Roblett, R-O-B-L-E-T-T. As I say, he covers the northwest of Kent and also the M25 corridor. Really knowledgeable, more than happy to speak to you as well. If you're interested in any of the other webinars we've done, they're on our website, and templates, make them available on request. And that's really the presentation. So I'm going to stop sharing and see if there's any last questions.
We did have a comment from Cheyenne from NRCP, just saying totally agree about Google. They keep tabs on all of our competitors. We can get lots of information on pricing / overheads just from a company's website. So that's a really good tip there as well for checking out your competitors' prices. But
it's also, and it's known who your competitors are. You will know who your local, who it is that you're competing against. And I think a top tip that goes alongside that is don't be afraid to mystery shop your competition. Okay, no, it's not only about the pricing bit, but by mystery shopping them, you can see what they do well and what they don't. So it's a worthwhile exercise to see what you can learn from them. Okay. This presentation around finance, there's another one that potentially we might do down the line, which is understanding your business. And what that then takes you through is what they call a sales funnel, but it really talks about your marketing, your customer journey, converting people into customers, and then get into a bit more around your net profit and your gross profit. So that's another session that goes alongside this, but that's your finance bit. So if there's no other questions, I was going to say thank you very much for your time today. I've really enjoyed that. Thank you.
That was a really, really brilliant session. Thank you very much, Jim. Did anybody have any questions at all? Looks like they've all been answered. What we will do is, Jim, if you're happy for us to, we'll send out your contact details when we send the slides. So I know there was a couple comments today of people wanting to get in contact with you for more personal advice and conversations afterwards. So I'll include that information for you guys so you all have a copy.
Definitely. And also what I'd say is that if it's outside of what we've spoken about here, but you think, actually, let me just ask this question, more than happy to. And if I can't help, I'll point you in the right direction.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very, very much. And thank you also to everyone for attending today. Really, really informative session. So truly, thank you. I know, especially at the moment, this will be so beneficial to many people, and it can make a world of difference. And there's some real golden nuggets in there as well. So thank you again for about the 5th time. Just a couple of things, if I can quickly keep you before we head off. Got so many tabs in the background here. Just a couple of Kent Invicta Chamber of Commerce events coming up. Sorry about this. There we go. Perfect. So we've got a couple of webinars coming up still. So we have Kent Invicta Live, Creative Thinking and Problem Solving Workshop. This is from the guys from The Familiar. They're really good workshops to be attending. This is aimed mostly for people that quite often need to be creative and kind of rely on their creative side within their business. And it will take you through a few tips as how to sort of nail into that creative side and really use this to solve your own problems as well as your teams as well. And then on Thursday, the 4th of February, we have business talks with Kelly Chawner. This is a new networking session that we do online. Really good. We go on a virtual behind the scenes tour and we go through different guest businesses every 2 weeks. This week is Macnade. They're based over in Faversham and they're a fantastic food company, really beautiful produce, and Stefano is amazing man as well.
I'm so excited speaking to Stefano. I love always speaking to Stefano.
Yeah, so really good session as well. And we'll use breakout rooms to be able to network after the session as well. That just leaves me to say thank you for attending, and we shall hopefully see you all again soon.
Have a good Thursday.